Hello. Today we're starting a new series on Mercury in the signs. Mercury is often reduced to communication, intellect, and the way someone speaks. That is true, but it only tells part of the story. In a chart, Mercury shows how your mind takes in the world, how it organizes experience, and how it turns observation into meaning. It describes the way you think, the way you learn, the way you ask questions, and the way you try to make sense of what is happening around you. It also reveals how you explain yourself, how you solve problems, how you listen, and what kind of information your mind naturally looks for. This is why Mercury is not only about talking. It is about perception. It is about interpretation. It is about the mental rhythm you move through life with, whether you realize it or not. Two people can hear the same thing and walk away with completely different conclusions. One notices the facts. Another notices the tone. One wants the big picture first, another needs details before anything makes sense. One speaks quickly because the ideas are arriving all at once, while another takes more time because they want every word to be precise. That difference is not random. Mercury explains it. The sign Mercury is in shows how the mind takes shape. It changes the thinking style, the communication pattern, and the way a person gathers, sorts, and shares information. Some Mercury placements think out loud and discover their point while speaking. Others need silence first because the mind wants to organize everything internally before anything is said. Some communicate directly and immediately. Others communicate carefully, indirectly, or with more nuance. Some learn through movement and discussion. Others learn through repetition, reflection, or analysis. The same applies to decision-making, misunderstanding, and mental stress. Mercury shows what your mind returns to by default. It shows how you process pressure, where your thinking becomes sharp or scattered, where you may over-explain, overthink, shut down, or miss what is right in front of you because your attention is trained in a certain direction. It also shows your natural intelligence, not in a shallow or one-dimensional way, but in the way your mind actually works when it is engaged, curious, and alive. In the natal chart, the sign shows the style, the house shows where Mercury is most active, and the aspects show whether the mind moves with ease, tension, speed, intensity, or contradiction. So in this series, we're starting with the sign. We're going to look at how Mercury operates in each sign, how it thinks, how it learns, how it communicates, what it needs in order to stay clear, and where it can get trapped in habits of thought that stop being useful. No recycled keywords, no flat stereotypes, and no treating people like a single trait. Just how the placement actually works. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to follow the series, and book a consultation for a more personal understanding of your chart. Mercury in Leo. Mercury in Leo gives the mind presence. Even when the voice itself is soft, there is usually something noticeable about the way this person speaks. The thought has shape, intention, and a natural instinct for emphasis. In astrology, Mercury describes perception, language, learning style, reasoning, interpretation, and the way a person turns experience into meaning. Leo changes that process by adding confidence, drama, coherence, and a stronger need for personal authorship. This is not a placement that likes to disappear into the background of its own thoughts. Ideas here often come with a point of view. The person is rarely interested in speaking just to add more noise to the room. They usually want what they say to land, to matter, to carry force, or clarity. Even casually, there is often a sense that the mind is arranging things into a statement rather than a loose collection of remarks. Leo is ruled by the sun, and that matters. The sun centralizes. It gathers things around a core. So Mercury in Leo often thinks by organizing experience around what feels essential, memorable, and worth saying clearly. There is often warmth in the delivery, but also conviction. The person tends to communicate as though language should have life in it. A flat, timid, overqualified way of speaking rarely feels natural here unless the rest of the chart pulls strongly in another direction. Mercury in Leo usually wants expression to be full enough to carry feeling, style, and intention at the same time. It does not always separate what is being said from how it is being delivered, because for this sign, delivery is part of the meaning. This is one reason these people can be very good storytellers. They often know where the important beat is, where to place emphasis, when to pause, and how to make a point memorable without burying it in too much detail. They may not always give the driest or most technical version of a story, but they often give the version people actually remember. The mind here tends to move towards significance. It wants the main thread, the emotional center, the defining message, the detail that makes the whole thing come alive. The fire gives vitality, boldness, and a strong creative current in the mental style. The fixed quality gives consistency, pride, and staying power. Together they produce a Mercury placement that can be expressive without being scattered. This is not usually a mind that wants to say 6 contradictory things at once and then leave the room. It tends to prefer a strong line. Once it sees what it believes the point is, it often commits to it fully. It can speak when other people hesitate. It can explain something with energy instead of draining the subject of life. It can give direction, make a clear case, and hold attention without constantly checking whether it is allowed to take up that much space. There is often generosity in that too. Mercury in Leo usually wants to communicate in a way that reaches people. Even when it is forceful, there is often a real wish to connect rather than simply dominate. It can teach well because it knows how to frame a message. It can lead well because it knows how to state things with confidence. It can encourage well because it knows how to speak to the part of people that wants courage, not just information. This is not only a placement of performance. It can be deeply motivating. When it believes in something, it often knows how to put heart into the message. People may feel more certain after hearing it, not because the argument was coldly perfect, but because the speaker made the point feel alive and worth acting on. Of course, the same qualities that make the placement strong can become excessive when they are less refined. A mind that likes clarity can become overly certain. A style that likes emphasis can become exaggeration. A strong point of view can harden into refusal. Mercury in Leo can sometimes become attached not only to its opinion, but to its role as the one expressing that opinion. When that happens, disagreement may feel more personal than it needs to. The issue is no longer just the issue. Pride has entered the room. Once pride gets involved, revision becomes harder, not always because the person lacks intelligence, but because changing position can feel like losing stature. That is one of the central lessons of this placement. The person often has to learn that authority in communication does not come from always being right or always sounding certain. Real authority comes from knowing when to stand by a position and when to let a better idea in. Mercury in Leo grows tremendously when it discovers that confidence does not disappear just because it becomes more flexible. This sign usually thinks in broad, coherent strokes before it thinks in fragments. It tends to look for the central meaning of something and then arrange the details around that. Because of that, it can be excellent at synthesis. It may not always care about every small technical detail, unless it serves the larger message, but it often understands how to pull a situation together into something clear and communicable that can make them strong speakers, managers, teachers, performers, creators, and interpreters of experience. Even outside visibly creative fields, Mercury in Leo often brings a creative approach to how information is delivered. There's usually some instinct for presentation, whether that means humor, confidence, memorable phrasing, or a natural ability to make dry material easier to absorb. This placement usually does well when learning feels engaging, purposeful, and animated. The mind tends to wake up when the material has shape and relevance. It often responds well to examples, stories, strong teaching, creative presentation, and environments where the person feels encouraged to participate rather than sit there silently absorbing disconnected facts. If the presentation is too lifeless, too fragmented, or too lacking in human energy, attention can drop. Once it has that reason, it can stay with a subject with impressive loyalty. This is not a placement that necessarily jumps from topic to topic looking for constant novelty. Fixed signs usually prefer continuity, and Leo is no exception. If the person truly cares about a field, an idea, or a creative interest, they can devote a great deal of sustained energy to it. These people often do best when they feel they are speaking into a room that is actually alive. They usually enjoy exchange, but not the kind that feels cold, detached, or purely clinical. There is often a preference for conversations with some spirit in them. Mercury in Leo often wants communication to feel human, not mechanical. That does not always mean constant attention or applause, despite the stereotype. More often it means the person wants real acknowledgement. If they have taken the time to express something meaningful, they usually do not respond well to being dismissed, talked over, or treated as though their contribution did not matter. This sign can be surprisingly sensitive to disrespect in conversation. In relationships, this placement usually values sincerity, consistency, and a communication style that is warm enough to feel personal. Indifference can hurt more than direct disagreement. A partner who never responds, never engages, or always acts half-present can be difficult for Mercury in Leo to trust, because this sign often experiences communication as a form of attention. When Mercury in Leo cares about someone, it may defend them openly, praise them generously, and speak with a kind of wholeheartedness that other signs are too guarded to show. This is one of the more openly appreciative placements when it is healthy. It often knows how to build people up with words. That is a real strength, especially because the encouragement usually sounds genuine rather than automatic. This placement can become overly self-referential. It can overstate the case. It can talk from certainty when listening would have been wiser. It can become theatrical when simplicity would have carried more truth. And yes, it can become defensive if it feels embarrassed, ignored, corrected publicly, or made to look small. In those moments, Mercury in Leo may double down, argue from pride, or make the issue bigger than it was because something in the exchange touched dignity. The mature version of this placement learns how to keep its warmth, strength, and expressive style without turning every disagreement into a threat to identity. It does not need to shrink in order to grow. It simply needs enough self-possession to stop defending itself at every turn. What remains is a mind that can communicate with real force and real heart. Mercury in Leo can make ideas memorable. It can speak in a way that gives people confidence. It can hold a room without becoming cold. It can bring style to thought without losing substance. There is often a natural sense of timing here, too. The person may know when to make the point, when to stay with the sentence a little longer, when to lighten the room, or when the moment calls for firmness. Even when the communication style is simple, it can have a distinct signature. People often remember how this placement said something, not only what was said. Mercury in Leo reminds us that intelligence is not only about analysis, precision, and detached objectivity. It is also about courage in expression, creative coherence, emotional warmth, and the ability to bring thought fully into presence. At its best, this placement gives a person confidence in speech, generosity in praise, consistency in thought, strong creative instincts, and a natural ability to make communication feel alive. It can inspire, clarify, encourage, and lead through language. The weaknesses are real. It can become proud, rigid, overstated, or too attached to being the voice at the center. But those are distortions of the gift, not the gift itself. The gift is a mind with heart behind it. Mercury in Leo is here to speak with warmth, think with conviction, and turn language into something that carries life instead of draining it away. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and book a consultation for a more personal understanding of your chart.